good afternoon. Thank you for coming to this session. I'm Koen Warsel. I'm going to talk a little bit about Netscaler. Working with Netscaler already pretty long. Every time I do a session, I say more than 10 years, but apparently it's 16 years. Because actually my first encounter with Netscaler was when I was working for a Citrix distributor, and you could win like a laptop or a nice prize by creating demo videos. And I made a demo video about web application firewall on Netscaler, and yeah, it was recorded 16 years ago, and that was like in my first months of working with Netscaler. So I'm working for a small company, Blue Byte. Blue Byte is a small company of techies that are 100% focused on Netscaler. This is my team basically. All Netscaler specialists. We don't have overhead, we don't have sales, we barely have marketing and finance. You know, we just have the bare minimum to get our company running, and that's basically it. Outside work, I'm a father of 3 daughters. I'm a volleyball player, recreational, of course, and yeah, Lego is also still something that interests me. Well, now you know everything about me. Today the idea is to talk about optimal gateway routing. Optimal gateway routing is a feature, yeah, it's very oddly growing. It's right out of the documentation of Citrix. So before we actually address what it is, let's say, how does gateway routing function traditionally? Like, you have a user with a receiver, HDX engine. The receiver could be the web browser as well. Connects to gateway A. You have maybe a multi-site, multi-zone setup with site A, site B. Storefront connects to delivery, a desktop delivery controller. This one selects the VDA where the session needs to start. And Storefront will tell the receiver how through the ICA file download, if you're not passing it through memory, of course, but we start the session, right? But as you will see, although the VDA is in site B, it will start the session over gateway A. That's the traditional flow. What does optimal gateway routing provide? A way to see, okay, hey, the VDA is in site B, maybe it's more interesting to use gateway B in that sense, right? And that's actually, in a nutshell, optimal gateway routing. How do you configure it? It's a combination of configuration of sites and zones and storefronts. And then, yeah, basically how you configure your Netscaler. So the idea is that the entry point where you authenticate and get the list of applications, application enumeration, doesn't necessarily have to be the same gateway that you use for actually setting up your ICA HDX session. Now, optimal gateway routing, the nice thing about it is that it enforces segmentation. In a lot of, let's say, larger organizations, you don't want a lot of traffic between site A and site B. Not because it's not available, most of the time it is available in high bandwidth, but because if they want the sites to be independent, like the DR solution or whatever. So it can isolate the traffic a little bit. With optimal gateway routing, you map basically the gateways to specific sites and zones, and actually you let the DEC decide which VDA it will select, obviously always, but then because of the configuration, that decision, which VDA is selected, will also impose a decision which gateway will be used, right? Okay, so that's optimal gateway routing. Now, if we take it a little step forward, then you can also use that type of configuration to basically split your traffic. Split your authentication traffic from your ICA or HDX session traffic, right? So you can have a gateway that's only doing authentication, is only providing the list of applications, let's say, but once the user clicks on an application, downloads the ICA file, it can go through any ICA HDX proxy that you configure, right? The nice thing, I think, about splitting those features is also that you can build in more segmented approach. So, for example, AAA gateway has other network requirements than, for example, an ICA HDX gateway. So you can introduce more segmentation. And then again, yeah, optimal gateway routing will does intelligent traffic steering. So basically, storefront will make the decision together with the DDC on knowing where the vehicle is. So basically, we can approach it a little bit like if you take a train. By coincidence, I took a train to here. I took the Eurostar from Belgium back to here. So what you do, normally you authenticate to, let's say, receive a ticket, and then you validate the ticket when you're stepping on the train. That didn't happen that much, I guess, because it was just at this train station, and for the rest, nobody asked where I went to sit or whatever. But okay, not the best example maybe on security, but the thing is you can split the service that gives you the ticket. So you authenticate, you see the applications there, you click on applications, you download the ICA file or pass it in memory to your receiver, and that ICA file is basically your ticket, right? That's a one-time ticket. It's a ticket that only can be used one time, obviously, and it also has an expiry time. You can bring it down to 1 minute if you want, right? And then with this ticket, user can start the session on the ICA proxy to basically start the session. So you have a little bit of separation of duties. If you also follow on the CVDs and all that stuff, you see that the AAA module, the gateway module, where the authentication part is actually attacked a lot. We don't see much attacks on the gateway part that is performing the ICA proxy. It's almost always in this area. So by splitting the traffic, there are opportunities to, let's say, do more and specific actions on each side. And that's something we want to explore in the next slides. So first of all, if we have dedicated roles, we also have dedicated, let's say, or more limited requirements for each gateway. So the AAA gateway, that needs to do the authentication. If you still have LDAP radius, and most of us still will probably have SAML or OAuth, but then you need, on the AAA, you need to have that connection to the LDAP and radius. You need to have a connection to the storefronts. SDA validation is not needed on a AAA, right? Because the SDA ticket is in the ICA file provided by the storefront, so there is no need for the AAA to have an SDA. There is no need to have a network path to your VDA sessions, to your VDAs in the backend, because you're not running them there. And then you can add, additional protections like web application firewall activation, bot management, responders. You can enforce SNI, etc., etc.
Yes, we're really happy to see that responder policy to disallow regular HTTP requests. We've got customers that run these.
Yes.
And even when we did a header to say, hey, it's not matching the Citrix workspace header, drop the traffic, they'd have bots that were mimicking the header, trying to get an authentication page. Obviously, it's not going to go anywhere, but it was just slamming the appliance with unnecessary traffic. So I'm glad to see you got that there.
Yeah, you can basically drop all HTTP requests. And then you don't even have to have the WAF and the bot management active on the ICA proxy. It's a waste of resources. But to be safe, I keep the WAF most of the time on this one as well and just monitor if it got hits, but it doesn't get hits. Yeah. So Another interesting thing is if you put your AAA here and you don't do ICA sessions over it, it's fully supported to SSL inspection on top. Some high regulated customers want, multiple vendors checking flows, right? Some have double firewalls from different vendors, right? Some want double WAF, let's say, from 2 different vendors. ICA proxy, NetScaler, performance-wise, stability support-wise, it's not possible, right? On AAA, you can do it, right? But again, to make the story, the ICA proxy here, what does that mean? It doesn't need access to LDAP radius, SAML, whatever, it doesn't need anything. It just needs the SDA service, connection to the SDA service, or services, you have multiple normally, to validate that ticket, and then connect to the ICA HDX sessions, PDAs in the backend. Here we have limited support for the SSL inspection, because simply, it's not supported by Citrix, it gives you performance headaches, it's just not a good idea. NetScaler firmware versions, last topic here of this slide, can be flexible. There is no reason that this needs to be the same version as that one. You can do whatever you want. And again, in those CVEs, that one needs to be upgraded really fast. This one you might be able to take a little bit more time. You have to evaluate CVE by CVE what you do, but it is possible. And this one impacts user performance if something is wrong. This one, just log in and click. It doesn't matter. Now, so on one side, with this optimal gateway routing configured in the back, and you split your gateways. On one side, you put user authentication, you generate a one-time ticket, you have the requirement to connect to your authentication backends, interfacing with 443, the WAF, the geolocation blocking, and then possibility of SSL inspection, and then here the same story. So no, the other side of the story, SDA and PDA connectivity, no requirement for your authentication backends connected, no storefront requirements. So yeah, basically pretty easy. If you want to configure it with GSLB, let's go one step further, because that's actually where, with quite some customers, we began this type of configuration. Then we most of the time do just GSLB on the AAA gateways, and we don't do GSLB on the ICA HDX proxy gateways. Not happy?
The problem there, I mean, one of the main reasons you want to do OGR is to have the fastest path to the VPN, so you're not backhauling through the network, but it could create a single point of failure in that scenario. So we've actually had a number of customers ask us to also GSLB the HDX gate. It does add complexity, but at least if a gateway fails in in regional A, at least it can use the fallback for region B, back hauling, but at least you're online.
Correct. The downside of this configuration, so what happens here, you have one FQDN for this AAA and it's for GSLB. This one has its dedicated FQDN, this one as well. And then you can make maybe an active passive link to them, but you want to keep this gateway close to these. But the downside is, let's say if site 1 is down completely, right? Well, on NetScaler side, is down completely. This NetScaler will talk to storefront, and here it might still point to these VDAs if you don't put them in maintenance mode, or if they are online, but it's only your NetScaler or your connectivity, and then you have a problem. That's true. Then you can do the GSLB active passive is maybe, but not actively load balance.
Yes, that's the process.
On this side, we do the AAA gateway with GSLB. We use the metrics exchange protocol is used to, let's say, to exchange the vServer state. But there is an important thing to note: is a VPN vServer gateway is always up. It never goes down. Even if it cannot reach the LDAP, it cannot reach the STA, the storefront, it doesn't matter, it always up. So in the standard configuration, yeah, GSLB will almost always see, except if the net scale on one side is completely dead, that the backend services are up, or at least the gateway will work, which is not the case. So what you should do, if you want to do this, is create some sort of, what we did is create some sort of responder policy, build a whole set of load balancers, internal load balancers that check your full backend and give a responder page to say, okay, I'm healthy, yes or no. And if I'm healthy, I give a 200 okay. If I'm not healthy, I give a 503 service unavailable. And then I'm only serving here or here if all these back-end services are, let's say, up. They don't have to be all up. If one of the two delivery controllers and that side is up, it's fine. If one of the two storefronts is up, it's fine. But at least if both of them on one side is down, I'm not going to serve traffic over there. So in this example, we create a responder and we create a health check on the GSLB to actually read that responder.
That's interesting, I've never seen that before. I'm just kind of curious, what's the advantage of that over creating custom GSLB monitors that point to the respective sites to look at LDAP, DNS, storefront?
Yeah.
Essentially a monitor of a bit to see if the bit is up.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, the reason why is because of the next slides.
Sure, good enough for me.
It is because in one of our customers, they were not okay with us using GSLB public facing on that scale. So they said, we want you to use our cloud DNS. Yeah, and that was, in that example, was Akamai. And then I needed to report in a smart way my health to Akamai. And yeah, basically, we first built that and then the other, and then we kind of stuck with this one. Yeah. But I can imagine you can also use the load balancing, monitoring them directly. That's fine. But in this case, we configure GSLB anyhow, although that we don't use it, we don't use the DNS feature for it. So the DNS is running here, but the firewall is closed. It's never addressed, but the GSLB is active for the metrics exchange protocol and also for the persistency, site persistency. Because site persistency is also a little bit of an issue that you can encounter here, is if a user by DNS is pointed to site 1, user logs in, gets the list of published applications, starts an application, and then maybe the user waits for 15 minutes, something. What happens in those 15 minutes? Your TCP/IP connections from the browser to the gateway will be closed, it will be timed out, but your session is not timed out yet. Maybe we say that the typical time frame is an hour before you get logged out again. But then after that 15 minutes, TCP connections are gone. I click on a second application that I want to launch. What happens? Ooh, I don't have TCP connections anymore. I need to do DNS resolve. Oops, I get on site 2. What happens? Site 2 didn't authenticate me. Site 1 authenticated me, so site 2 doesn't know about my authentication. Site 2, however, can see that I came from site 1 because you can configure on GSLB a site persistence with a cookie. But then the result will be that this gateway will proxy the connection to the other gateway, because there is your authenticated session. And that's something you need to consider also a little bit in the whole setup, especially when you want to add additional security features like session hijacking protection and stuff. But yeah, that goes. So Now, with this cloud DNS, we can integrate it, so you just configure Netscaler GSLB as is, with, but the DNS service is not exposed, and you monitor from the cloud DNS on this /health or whatever path you choose, right? Equal load distribution is a little bit of a thing. That's not gonna work out of the box, let's say, on this cloud DNS integration. It is possible by putting there some parameters in the response and do something with that. But on the other hand, we didn't invest that much time in that because it's just the authentication part. So who cares about equal load there? I mean, it's not that much of traffic. It's not that much of bandwidth or whatever. Okay. Now maybe look a little bit at the security side. Because the title was Optimal Gateway Routing as a Security Feature. When you put a gateway on the internet and you don't activate any security features and you just put it there and you activate logging, you might get these things in the logs, right? Somebody did hit a AAA client handler. I don't know what that is. Yeah, we know what it is, but and then try the request on NFAuth do authentication don't do. Okay. It is an error, so they probably didn't get through, we hope. And then a second message, maybe, yeah, that a username was sent, login request schema does not define, whatever. Yeah, what do we know out of this? Nothing. We don't know the source IP, we don't know the request, or a little bit the request. So, what should we do? What could we do better? Well, pretty easy, I guess. We activate the, yeah, okay, attempt was made, these modules. What can we do better? We can activate the WAF, right? Okay, we have the WAF. You, by any chance, should always activate that WAF. There is no reason not to do it. There might be an update sometimes that, you know, the WAF is a bit stronger than intended, like with the RDP proxy, sometimes with EPAScan things, but then you build an exception and it's fine. But it really can block a lot of things. Now the same requests result in this loss. It gives us already a little bit of a better feeling, right? Because it's not the authentication module that stopped it, it's the web application firewall that stopped it. But I also want to give you a question here, like if you look at the requests, you can do better, right? No? Well, let's see. So same attempt, but blocked by the WAF. Yay. But if you look at web application firewall, what does it actually mean? If something hits the web application firewall, the client that wants to go to the Netscaler, it needs to build a TCP session. It needs to set up a TLS session, an encrypted session. Then it does that HTTP request, and then the WAF will say, I will block it. Yeah. If I go back to this one, isn't there something in this request there that we can use so we can block it earlier?
Your SNI enforcement.
Yes, of course, indeed. So you can use server name SNI, very simple. And I see in the field a lot of gateways, they don't configure it. They just bind the certificate as a default certificate and that's it. So it's always doing the TLS, but why? If the name and the client hello is not correct, you can kick them out already. You don't have to wait until it hits the WAF. No, you don't have to see on the WAF IP address /WP -admin or something because they think there is a WordPress on your gateway.
It's less expensive as well, isn't it? I mean, you don't even respond with a server hello, you just reset.
You just drop it. Yeah. You don't even have to, you're not even using your crypto in the back, your crypto ciphers acceleration to do anything. You can basically drop on the third packet. it comes later, that remark. So what is the SNI? So in the client hello, you see server name identification. There is the server name. If that server name is not matching with your certificate, you kick them out. There is enough rubbish on the internet that we don't need, so let's stop it. How do you activate this? Very simple. You create a decent SSL profile. You might already start thinking of disabling TLS 1.2. Workspace app is running a little bit behind, but it's possible now. So if your workspace apps are updated correctly, you can do it. You enable SNI, you apply the profile to the gateway. When binding the certificate, bind it with the -SNI sect parameter. Do not bind the default certificates. Do not bind, because then it beats the purpose. And then when there is no default certificate, there is no SNI match, the traffic will just be dropped. Right? If you want to see it in the codes, very simple. Yeah, mind the TLS 1.2. I want to disable this with a lot of customers we have, but
Good luck.
it's not that easy. So don't, yeah, probably in your environment you need to put that on enabled. But okay. So it's another layer of defense. So the idea is actually on the Netscaler you have basically the whole OSI model of networking at your disposal, and at every layer you can do stuff. So let's do a lot of stuff before you hit the authentication page, before you hit the WAF, and before you hit the botnet. So that's it. Now, if we enforce the SNI, then that goes a little bit further on what you mentioned. TCP handshake is about 3 packets. So basically, if client hello is false at the 4th packet, you kick him out, right? If we go in the future, maybe moving more towards UDP, then potentially we can kick them out at the 1st packet. But we're far from that. UDP is not where we are yet. So yeah, and that's the response that you get in the browser. Yeah, so here I took the IP address, right, HTTPS IP, and it just say error SL version cipher mismatch. It doesn't expose anything. It doesn't even give its own certificate. So that's that's pretty good, I guess. Also for reconnaissance scans, it's just more difficult to detect what's going on. And if this is an ICA proxy gateway, yeah, it simply doesn't respond to anything except secret receivers.
And that's another good point. It goes back to like, just enable the WAF natively in all your gateways if you're running them. Set and forget, it's a quick thing to do.
Yeah.
Well, I'm not sure if anyone's ever looked at their own NetScalers, if they showed up in those reports of someone dropped in GitHub, like, hey, these NetScalers are running on a CVE version or whatever. You're going, why the heck is my NetScaler there? Well, when we started looking at it with our customers, we found that our customers that had the WAF piece enabled, they never showed up there. Because when you enable the WAF, it's obfuscating most of the identifiers. So when F5, for example, a couple of years ago or a year ago was saying, oh, all these NetScalers are dropping off the internet and showing that we're really giving them help, wasn't the case. It was that customers started enabling this, so they started dropping off the internet.
Yeah, because they didn't detect what it was behind it. Yeah, true. But also, and that's very scary, is we had a CVE last month. What was the date it was released? The 17th?
It was the first day of Citrix. You know, they delayed
postponed it. There was a pre-notification a bit too early, and then.
Yeah.
But I don't know the exact date, but I do remember that the CVE was there, and the WAF hits. I saw them only like 3 or 4 days later, after that the CVE was released. Let's say we could see in all WAF firewall logs attempts to see like, okay, is this and that's just scary, you know. okay, you're working with those NetScalers to protect them as much as possible, but just knowing CV is released 4 days later, they're trying it. And I guess, yeah, vibe coding some bots is very easy nowadays, so it goes so fast, so you better not show who you are when it's not needed. Okay, so again, split of duties. So on the AAA gateway, we can do additional things with ACLs, IP reputation, GeoIP responder policies, other things like, when you split the traffic, that does mean that you can totally redesign your firewall rules because you can limit them even further. And then the SNI enforcement as well. Then for the ICAP proxy gateway, we can do kind of the same thing here. Change the firewall rules so you only have connectivity to the VDAs and the SDA, and that's basically all you need.
So something that goes nicely with the SNI enforcement actually on the split model is the fact that your FQDNs for your ICA instances can be very cryptic, can't they? I mean, that you don't have to be citrix.yourdomain.com because it's embedded in the storefront config. It's not something that the user is even perceiving.
Nobody needs to know them. Yeah, that's
well, other than your support team, if they're trying to figure out what exactly we're hitting.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and you need to watch out a little bit. You need to watch out a little bit with your callback URLs. But they all have to point to your AAA. ICA proxy doesn't need.
But it can be something not obvious to if something's trying to guess names or whatever.
And we're struggling, to be honest, also a little bit with, you have the GACS, GACS.
Yeah, Global App Integration Service.
Global Admin Confirmation Service. And we have a support case running with Citrix about this, and they're totally not understanding this at all. So they're talking about URLs from the ICAP proxy gateway and say, it doesn't matter, it's another one. So we'll have to figure out what's going on there. Besides those easy defenses, let's say, which doesn't cost a lot of effort for the NetScaler to, let's say, kick out those sessions, we can obviously activate the layer 7 defenses, strict HTTP protocol validation, the WAF, bot management. We can do responder whitelisting, with some customers we have geolocation blocking. There is now a very nice integration with NetScaler console and MaxMind database. So you can basically upload it in NetScaler console and push it to all your NetScalers you have at one go. Pretty nice. Session hijacking protection is also something we tend to activate. So you compare the IP address that was used during the authentication session to your following TCP, HTTP request, and if it doesn't match, you kick the user out and let them log in again. Not my favorite feature, but yeah, it works.
You can also do HTTP callouts if you want to block, let's say, VPN, since the Citrix VPN or IP reputation doesn't really block like WinScribes or random VPNs or whatnot out there, but there's databases that you can leverage that do that. You can use HTTP callouts to say, I want to block all anonymous proxies, all VPNs, and do far better on that than IP reputation would.
And then on the ICA gateway, you can simply make a responder policy, drop all HTTP requests. You don't need them. Also, a receiver, nowadays the structure is going to move a little bit, that a receiver is downloading the ICA file, let's say, instead of the browser. But that doesn't really change this because it's not getting the ICA file from here, it's getting it from here, so it doesn't really change that topology. Here you don't need HTTP request. Authentication you put to off, you don't need authentication. Default authorization you keep on deny, no AAA policies, no session policies, nothing, only SDAs. That's it. So yeah, that's the gateway, HDX gateway settings again. So block all HTTP requests. Then on the gateway, on the hardening, yeah, turn on authentication. You don't need any SCA servers on your AAA, and you activate WAF and bot management. You take your two traditional session policies, or you have more depending on your environment, but and keep deny all. Bot management is something you can also enable, but again, bot management is a little bit of a strange feature for Citrix to combine with gateway. It might not be 100% designed to do it that way, because sometimes, yeah, we still see that certain URLs that get AAA module are before the bot management. It's a little bit, but yeah, a bummer, but let's hope WAF will get it then. Now with the bot management, standard bot management gives you a signature database from Citrix with all, let's say, bots, but they tend to be configured as we allow the good bots and we deny the bad bots. So the first thing what we do is basically look at this signature DB and say deny all bots, because we also don't want the good bots. Why would Google need to index your authentication page on Gateway? You don't, and I dare you to do it. Try to Google Citrix login Gateway. You get 400 hospitals. Yeah. You get all kind of. Do you want your company or your organization be in that list? Where no, you will tell your users what the URL is. Google doesn't have to provide it for you. So keep those bots out. Now, bot management is this part where you keep them out by matching the user agent, because that's the base thing that it does, and then the others are the fingerprinting and the bot trap that kind of traps the bots. But there is also a way to configure a responder where the responder policy serves a robots.txt, and in that one you just say disallow all basically, and then the friendly bots, normally like Google, not Facebook apparently, but Google will then say, okay, robots.txt does not allow us to crawl, so we will not do that. Of course, malicious bots don't listen to something like that, but at least, yeah, you can put it in place. A bot trap is also something that can be configured easily. So you specify like a random something.php that's popular, I guess. And that's actually a URL that bot management will inject in the code of your authentication page. A user will never see that URL. So a user will never click it because it's not visible on screen. A bot will go through the code and see the URL and follow it. If the URL is followed, then bot management knows, hey, you're a malicious bot, or you're a bot at least. You're not a regular user, and I kick you out. So that's basically bot. It kind of pushes out a lot of users or sessions as well. So the main takeaways a bit about optimal gateway routing and splitting AAA and ICA HDX flows is we separate the communication, we separate the duties, right? So AAA gateways have separate duties from ICA gateways. We can do specific hardening for each of them, separate firewall rules, separate modules active. Separate firewall rules. The AAA gateway can be more easily integrated with third-party security layers. Like, if you want to put in a Cloudflare WAF in front of it, if you want to put an Akamai in front of it, no problem. If you do that on the ICA side, big problems. But at least this is your front door where people need to authenticate. If they succeed, they get a ticket that's valid for 1 minute. I mean, crack an ICA HDX gateway where you need to provide a ticket for a user that's only valid for 3 minutes and only valid one time, it's a pretty tricky thing to get in. Huh? On a AAA, yeah, there's where your exposure is in fact, right? You might say, okay, you need a lot of NetScalers in this case, right? A lot of NetScaler instances, but also that, customers that have multiple sites and stuff, they have probably hybrid multi-cloud licensing, platform licensing, so number of NetScalers is not so important anymore. You can run as many as you want. And then the independent firmware lifecycle, so you can upgrade them as you want. And what we try to do is put that in some infrastructure as code principles and deploy those things with things like Ansible and Terraform. The gateway part mostly with Ansible. Terraform we use more for the load balancers and the content switches. And that's a little bit my story. I don't know if there are questions.
Are you doing anything specifically for STA integration, other than obviously listing them all? Are you customizing the ticket lifetime? Are you using dedicated servers? Are you requesting multiple tickets? What's the approach?
To get this more NetScalers running.
No, just really like when you're going for the sort of this sort of layered model, and there's obviously a strong security optimization. I'm just wondering if you're doing anything specifically about STA management.
STA, no, not that I thought of yet. You might have ideas.
Really?
Yeah, the only thing is I put the time, most of the time I put it to 1 minute, the smallest that I can have. And we instruct users, that if they have the old way download and they need to click it because of their company endpoint configuration, now with the guys we're going to push a lot of users to enforce the ICA file in memory.
Yeah.
And that's going to be a good one, because still the issue that security doesn't like, and which is there, is you download an ICA file, if you email it to somebody else to the other side of the world, and that person can click it within that time frame of 1 minute and start a session, you basically give it away. And that's something we still want to fix, and then passing in memory might help with that.
Sassy?
Not yet. Not yet.
Not yet.
Oh, let's go out.
Okay. Sorry, John, listen to this rubbish.
I'm here for the rest of the day, so if you have questions,
Exactly. Let's go.
or you can find me through this. Thank you.